What happens when a country music superstar walks into one of daytime television's most unpredictable hot seats and refuses to play by the rules? The answer involves raised voices, stunned silence, and security being called to the stage. This is the story of how Blake Shelton's appearance on The View went from a friendly promotional interview to an absolute disaster that no one saw coming. It all began like any other celebrity appearance. Blake Shelton walked onto The View set with his usual confident swagger, flashing that easy Oklahoma smile and waving to the studio audience as they cheered. He was there to promote his latest album, wearing jeans, a button-down shirt, and boots that told you he didn't need Hollywood approval to know who he was. The panel that day included Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, and Alyssa Farah Griffin, all smiles as Blake took his seat on the couch. Whoopi started the interview warmly. "Blake Shelton, welcome back to The View." "It's been a minute." Blake grinned. "Good to be back, Whoopi. Always an interesting time when I come on this show." The audience laughed. There was an easy rhythm at first, a calm before the storm. Sarah asked about his new album, his songwriting process, and the inspirations behind his latest songs. Blake spoke with genuine excitement, talking about new collaborations, the sound he was experimenting with, and how he wanted to make music that felt honest and hopeful. Everything seemed perfectly normal until Joy Behar leaned forward in her chair. Her tone changed the entire energy in the room. "Blake," she said, "you've been pretty quiet lately on social issues. Is that a deliberate choice? Or do you just not have opinions on what's happening in the world?" The air thickened. Blake didn't flinch, but his posture shifted slightly. "Well, Joy," he began, still polite but firmer now, "I wouldn't say I've been quiet. I just think there's a time and place for certain conversations. I'm a musician first. People don't come to my shows to hear me lecture them." Joy crossed her arms. "But don't you think artists have a responsibility to use their platform? You've got millions of fans who look up to you." "I think artists have a responsibility to make good music," Blake replied evenly. "People are smart enough to form their own opinions without me telling them what to think." Sunny Hostin jumped in. "That's an interesting perspective, Blake. But some would argue that silence is complicity. When you have influence, staying neutral is taking a side." Blake exhaled, his charm slipping just slightly. "I don't think staying neutral is taking a side, Sunny. I think it's respecting that my fans come from all walks of life. I'm not going to alienate half of them to score points on Twitter." Joy's voice rose just a bit. "So you'd rather protect your brand than stand up for what's right?" "I'd rather bring people together with music than divide them with politics," Blake shot back. His southern drawl thickened, his words sharper. "That's what's wrong with everything now. Everybody wants to put you in a box, make you pick a side, and if you don't, they act like you're the problem." The audience reacted, a mix of applause and murmurs. Whoopi tried to interject, but Joy was already on the offensive. "Nobody's trying to put you in a box, Blake," she said. "We're asking you to have a backbone. Use your voice for something meaningful instead of just selling records." Blake's jaw tightened. "I'd use my voice for meaningful things. I use it to give people an escape from negativity, from all the fighting, from people who want to turn every conversation into a battle." He paused, looking right at Joy. "From people like you." The studio fell silent. Sarah's eyes widened. Alyssa glanced nervously at the producers. "People like me?" Joy repeated, her voice sharp. "Yeah," Blake said calmly. "People who can't have a conversation without making it personal, without attacking someone's character just because they don't agree with you." Joy leaned forward. "I don't have an agenda, Blake. I have principles, and I respect that," he said, though his tone said otherwise. "But you don't get to question my integrity or say I don't have a backbone because I handle things differently." Whoopi tried to mediate. Okay, let's all take a breath. "I know exactly what Joy's trying to say," Blake interrupted, eyes still locked on her. "She's trying to bait me into saying something controversial so she can have her moment." Joy slammed her hand on the table. "That is absolutely not what I'm doing. I'm asking legitimate questions, And you're being defensive and disrespectful. Blake let out a short laugh. You accused me of not having a backbone on national TV. And I'm the one being disrespectful? Maybe if you actually stood for something, I wouldn't have to ask these questions. Joy fired back. That did it. Blake stood abruptly. The audience gasped. I stand for plenty, he said. My family, my fans, my music, treating people with respect even when we disagree. Something you clearly know nothing about. Joy rose too, pointing a finger at him. Don't you dare come on this show and talk down to me. I've been doing this for decades, and I don't need some talk show host who built her career on being controversial telling me I don't have principles. Blake snapped. Whoopi stood between them now. All right, that's enough, both of you. Joy cut her off. I'm not going to sit here and be insulted by someone who doesn't have the courage to take a real stand. There it is, Blake said, shaking his head. Because I won't perform my beliefs for your approval. I don't have courage. You think everyone needs to think like you or they're wrong. That's not journalism, that's arrogance. Here we go with the coastal elite nonsense. Joy rolled her eyes. That's what people say when they don't have a real argument. It's not nonsense, Blake said, stepping closer. It's reality. You live in a bubble. Joy. You think everyone who disagrees with you is ignorant or evil. That's not how the real world works. Sunny tried to intervene. Blake, maybe take a step back. Why? Blake turned toward her. Because I'm not supposed to defend myself. I came here to talk about my music, not be ambushed with political gotcha questions. Nobody ambushed you, Joy said. We asked fair questions any public figure should answer. Fair questions? Blake laughed bitterly. You attacked my character in 5 minutes. That's not fair, that's a setup. Whoopi raised her voice. Everyone needs to calm down. It got out of hand when Joy made it about politics, Blake said. His tone was lower now, but the anger still burned under the surface. Everything is political, Blake, Joy said flatly. Your silence is political. I'm not silent, Blake said. I'm just not interested in turning everything into a shouting match. People are exhausted by this constant fighting. The audience was dead quiet now, not a cough, not a whisper. Alyssa spoke softly. We can disagree without being disagreeable. Blake nodded. I appreciate that, Alyssa. I didn't come here to fight. But I also won't sit here while someone questions my character. It became a fight, Joy said coldly, because you got defensive the second I asked about your responsibility as an artist. It wasn't a simple question, Blake replied. It was designed to make me look like I don't care. And when I didn't give you the answer you wanted, you pushed harder. Because your answer was disappointing, Joy said. You have this enormous platform, and you're wasting it. Wasting it? Blake repeated, incredulous. I've raised millions for charity. I've helped new artists get their start. I use my voice to help people. I just don't make a show out of it. But nobody knows that, Sunny said gently. Maybe if you talked about it more, people would understand your perspective. I don't do good things for attention, Blake said. I do them because it's the right thing to do. Joy smirked. That's very convenient. You say you do all these wonderful things, but there's no proof. Just your word. Blake blinked in disbelief. Are you calling me a liar? I'm saying it's easy to claim you do things when you never talk about them, Joy replied. How are we supposed to know what's real? Blake turned toward Whoopi. Is she serious right now? Is this really happening? Whoopi looked uncomfortable. I don't think that's what she meant, Blake. That's exactly what she meant, Blake said, his voice rising again. First I don't have a backbone. Now I'm lying about charity. What's next? I'm asking for proof, Joy said, shrugging. If you're doing these things, show us. Blake pulled out his phone. You want proof? I'll show you every check I've written. Put your phone away, Whoopi said quickly. You don't need to prove anything. Apparently I do, Blake said, glaring at Joy. Because she thinks I'm full of it. Oh, don't be so dramatic, Joy said dismissively. I'm not saying you've never done anything good. I'm saying you hide behind this humble routine to avoid taking real stances. It's not a routine, Blake said through gritted teeth. It's who I am. I was raised to do good quietly, to help people without making it about me. I'm sorry that doesn't fit your definition of activism. Activism isn't about definitions, Joy countered. It's about using your voice when it matters. And you think I don't? Blake said, his voice cutting through the air. Because I don't tweet about it? Because I don't sit here and virtue signal? I think you care more about your image than making a difference, Joy said flatly. The words landed like a punch. Blake stared at her, his jaw tight. You don't know a damn thing about me, he said quietly. You sit here and judge people you've never met. You call that journalism? You call that courage? I call it honesty, Joy said, unflinching. Maybe nobody's ever had the guts to call you out before. Call me out for what? Blake demanded. For not turning every interview into a political stunt? For trying to bring people together instead of dividing them? For being a coward, Joy said. The audience gasped. Blake froze. His expression hardened completely. What did you just call me? I called you a coward, Joy said again, her tone calm but cutting. Because you're afraid to take a stand. Blake stepped closer to the table. You don't know me. You don't know what I've done or what I've stood for. You don't know the people I've helped or the fights I've had that weren't on camera. You just see what you want to see. Joy stood too. I see someone who cares more about being liked than being real. Blake laughed a low, bitter, no. Joy. You see someone who won't play your game. You want me to say something controversial so you can have your viral moment. Well, congratulations, you got it. Whoopi rushed in, hands up. Okay, that's enough. We're going to a commercial. No, Joy said firmly. We're finishing this. There's nothing to finish, Blake said. You've made up your mind about me, and that's fine. But don't mistake my refusal to argue as fear. It's called respect. Respect, Joy said with disbelief. You've been yelling at me for 10 minutes. I've been defending myself, Blake said, voice firm but calm again. There's a difference. The tension in the studio was unbearable. Producers hovered just off camera. Security edged closer to the set, just in case. Blake finally looked at Whoopi. I'm done here, he said. I came to talk about music, not to have my character dragged through the mud. He stood, straightening his jacket. The crowd murmured, half in shock, half in awe. As he turned to leave, Joy muttered, typical. Blake stopped, slowly turned back. You know what's typical, Joy? People trying to tear each other down instead of listening. I'm not perfect, but at least I try to build something instead of destroy it. With that, Blake walked off the set. The audience erupted, some cheering, some booing, all stunned. Whoopi quickly called for a commercial break, her voice tense. We'll be right back. Blake never returned to finish the segment, and according to sources inside the studio, producers had to escort him through a side exit to avoid further confrontation. That day, The View made headlines for all the wrong reasons. What started as a simple album promotion turned into one of the most talked about clashes in daytime television history. And while fans were divided, some praising Blake for standing his ground, others defending Joy for pushing accountability, one thing was undeniable: the moment exposed just how volatile the line between entertainment and activism has become. Maybe Blake Shelton didn't want to talk politics. Maybe Joy Behar couldn't stand that. But what unfolded on that stage reminded everyone watching just how fragile conversation can be when ego, belief, and conviction collide.